You're listening to the Doctor Is In podcast, brought to you by MartinClinic.com. During the episode, the doctors share a lot of information. As awesome as the info may be, it is not intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes.
Welcome. I want to talk to you right now, just a little bit of a teaching on GERDs. And what is GERDs? GERDs is acid reflux. It's when your little sphincter between your esophagus and your stomach, there's too much acidity going up. And I want to just give you 5 reasons that you could have acid reflux. And almost everybody I'm sure knows what that is. The first one is HCI. What do we mean by that? High circulating insulin. The number one symptom that people get from too many carbohydrates over a long period of time, especially sugar, is that they get GERDs. They actually get acid reflux. It's your body screaming at you, hello, your insulin is too high. It's one of the major indicators that you have high levels of insulin. So the other one is low HCl. Low HCl. That is low acidity in the stomach. It almost doesn't make sense, but one of the major causes of having acid reflux is that you don't have enough acidity in your body. So when you take, you take Tums and Rolaids and any kind of medication to lower your acidity in your stomach, all you're doing is using a Band-Aid. It never fixes it. The purple pill, Tagamet, Prepulse, all those suppressing what they call proton pump inhibitors, all they're doing is actually lowering the acidity, and that is actually one of the causes of acid reflux. Your body knows that it's not making enough acidity, and it actually tries to make more, and then it sends it up the esophagus and you're getting symptoms. This is why I often with this, I'm really telling patients to make sure they're taking digestive enzymes, because enzymes and the HCl and the digestive enzymes really helps to correct the problem at the root problem, that is low stomach acidity. Here's another one, food sensitivities. Isn't it amazing? People are always trying to figure out what they're allergic to. Well, you got to figure that out. It's much better that you do it yourself and trying to find out what your sensitivities are. A lot of people, they have acid reflux because they have sensitivities to dairy, or they have sensitivities more often to gluten. That doesn't mean you're celiac, but it means you're having sensitivities even to gluten. And again, it's probably, I usually say gluten schmuten because you don't have celiac, but you and carbohydrates are frenemies. So it actually goes back up to high circulating insulin. You just don't do well with crappy carbohydrates, and your body's screaming at you to change your diet. So food sensitivities, low stomach acidity, and number one, high circulating insulin. Here's another one, cortisol. Cortisol, stress, that really has a major effect on your GI tract and can often cause you to have GERDs, which is acid reflux. And once the stress levels go down, you feel so much better. Now, another one, and this is a much more common than people think. One of the causes of GERDs or acid reflux is when you have a condition called SIBO, SIBO, which is a small intestine bacterial infection called SIBO. But listen to me. It's really important to understand that SIBO never develops in a vacuum. What I mean by that is I've never seen a case of SIBO where it is strictly a bacteria. Okay, it's like patients ask me every day, Doc, I got H. pylori. What does that mean? Well, everybody's got H. pylori. H. pylori is a bacteria that lives in your stomach, but never will give you problems till you have an overgrowth of yeast or candida. When you have leaky gut, yeast, you know what happens if you put yeast into bread? What happens? It rises. The same thing with yeast inside your body. When you have an overgrowth due to antibiotics or even stress, a high sugar intake or whatever over a long period of time, you now get a flourishing of yeast and you don't have enough friendly bacteria to keep it down. Therefore, it can attack your small intestine, and then a bacteria sits on top of it. So always look for yeast, having an overgrowth of yeast, and don't feed it. Yeast is always loves sugar, and don't give it sugar. Don't feed the bears. I always tell my patients, your sugar feeds candida. It feeds the yeast. It can coat your stomach, and it can actually affect your HCl, and it can coat your small intestine, giving you gas and bloating and acid reflux and belching. A lot of that has to do with SIBO, but the root cause is that of yeast. So it's very important to look for these things if you have acid reflux. And listen, you don't want acid reflux to go on for a long period of time, because you can develop a condition called Barrett's esophagus, which is, it can literally burn a hole in your little valve between your stomach and your esophagus. You get that? That makes you much more susceptible to cancer. But if you keep your insulin down, almost the vast majority, and even insulin helps with everything, because we already talked about food sensitivities, lower your insulin, lower your stress, and it has a major effect on SIBO, which is in the small intestine. Okay, thank you for watching today.
You've reached the end of another Doctor is In podcast with your hosts, Dr. Martin Jr. and Sr. Be sure to catch our next episode, and thanks for listening.